In this video, we will show you how to install microSHIFT bar end shifters. If you have any questions about proper setup, it's best to consult with a professional bike mechanic. Before attaching the shift lever, you need to install the plug mount into the open end of the handlebar. Insert the plug with the housing stop facing down and the lever mounting tab oriented toward the outside of the bar. Using a 5mm hex wrench, turn the bolt inside the mount counterclockwise to tighten it to 5 to 6 Newton meters. To attach the right lever, find the square mounting surface on the plug mount, then match the half circle indent on the lever assembly to the side of the square facing the bottom of the shifter. Push the nut through the bottom of the clamp and the lever assembly, then finger tighten the torque bolt until it's flush with the lever. For the left lever, the process is exactly the same. Find the square mounting surface on the plug mount, then match the half circle indent on the lever assembly to the side of the square facing the bottom of the shifter. Push the nut through the bottom of the clamp and the lever assembly, then finger tighten the torque bolt until it's flush with the lever. For bar end shifters, there are a couple of ways to route the housing. The traditional way is to route the housing from the shifter along the flat part of the drop bars, then have it exit from the bar tape and circle back externally to the housing stop on the frame. The more modern way is to route the housing along the entire bar under the handlebar tape until it exits at the flats, then down to the housing stop. Either way, make sure that the handlebar can turn fully without interference and that there are no sharp bends in the housing. If you're using a mountain derailleur that doesn't have a barrel adjuster, and your frame does not have an integrated barrel adjuster, you'll want to install an inline barrel adjuster in the housing. If you're running the housing under the bar tape, attach it to the handlebar with electrical tape. To install the cable, first make sure that the shift lever has been shifted all the way down toward the bottom of the bike. Then, with the housing in place, route the shift cable through the shift lever and feed it through the housing. Once the cable has exited the final piece of cable housing, route the cable through the housing stop on the rear derailleur. Take care to make sure that the cable housing is seated in the housing stop. Then pull the inner cable tight through the cable fixing point on the derailleur and tighten the cable fixing bolt. Every derailleur is different, so make sure to consult the manufacturer's instructions regarding cable routing, torque spec, and limit screw and bead tension adjustment. Once the cable is secure, cut the excess cable and attach a cable end tip. After the cable is attached, it's time to adjust the torque bolt on the side of the shifter. Tighten the bolt with a 4mm hex wrench to about 2 Newton meters, which is basically just snug, and then shift to a larger cog on the rear derailleur. Notice that the shifter does not return. Then, begin loosening the torque bolt slowly, watching for the lever to return to its indexed position. Once it does, stop loosening the torque bolt. Test the shifting action to make sure that the shifter returns to its indexed position on every shift. To adjust cable tension, you should have a barrel adjuster on the rear derailleur, on the frame's cable stop, or in line with the cable housing. Turn the barrel adjuster clockwise to release tension, or counterclockwise to add it. If the derailleur is slow to move to a bigger cog, add tension. If the derailleur is slow to move to a smaller cog, release tension. Routing the cable on the left shifter is the same as the right shifter. Make sure that the shift lever has been shifted all the way down toward the bottom of the bike. Then, with the housing in place, route the shift cable through the shift lever and feed it through the housing. Cable and housing routing depends on which frame and derailleur you're using, so be sure to consult those manuals for correct setup. Once you've got the cable routed through the derailleur fixing bolt, tighten the bolt, cut the excess cable, and attach a cable end tip. Once the cable is installed, the torque bolt needs to be set. The process is slightly different for a friction shifter. Tighten the torque bolt with a 4mm hex wrench until it's snug, about 2 Newton meters. Then turn the lever clockwise to shift to a larger chainring. Loosen the torque bolt until the lever returns. Then, retighten the torque bolt by about half a rotation. This allows the shifter to be tight enough to hold the derailleur in place without slipping. Cable tension adjustment works the same for the front shifter as for the rear shifter. Turn the barrel adjuster counterclockwise to add tension, and clockwise to release it. If the front derailleur is slow to shift to a bigger chainring, add tension. If the derailleur is slow to shift to a smaller chainring, release tension. If you're having mechanical problems, or if you just like it better, you can switch from index to friction mode on the right shifter. To do that, loosen the torque bolt with a 4mm hex. Then turn the dial under the torque bolt until the friction icon lines up with the red dot. Tighten the torque bolt until it's snug, about 2 Newton meters. Shift to a larger cog on the rear derailleur. Loosen the bolt until the shift lever begins to return. Then retighten by about half a revolution. Make sure the shifter is tight enough to hold the derailleur in place without slipping. This concludes the installation video for the microSHIFT bar end shifters. Thanks for watching. If you have any more questions, please email us at service@microshift.com.